Let's talk about the third step within cellular respiration, which is known as the Krebs cycle. It's also known as the TCA cycle, and it's also known as the citric acid cycle. Yeah, it does have 3 names, but I typically call it the Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle occurs in the mitochondrial matrix. That's the liquid inside a mitochondria. And the Krebs cycle is a series of enzymatic reactions that are going to be linked together. This specific step is going to harness the energy from acetyl-CoA from the previous step, which is called the PrEP step. Don't get too scared. This is what it looks like. I'm going to come back to this illustration after going over what happens at each step. Again, don't get overwhelmed. Take a screenshot if you need to. Pause this video. This is what happens in the Krebs cycle. The first step, acetyl-CoA is going to join with oxaloacetate. Remember to watch where the carbons are. Acetyl-CoA is 2 carbons while oxaloacetate is 4 carbons. This is going to create a 6-carbon molecule called citrate. After citrate forms, NAD is going to react with the molecule and form NADH. CO2 is going to be released, which means we're losing a carbon. That 5-carbon molecule is called ketoglutarate. In the next major step of the Krebs cycle, you're going to have the same things occur again. NAD is going to be reduced into NADH. A CO2 molecule is going to be produced, which means we lose a carbon, so ketoglutarate becomes succinate. And succinate is a 4-carbon molecule. Next, we have a different type of molecule called FAD, which is going to be reduced into FADH2. ATP is also produced in this next step. Through, again, more reactions and enzymes, succinate is going to be changed into something called fumarate. Now, fumarate is, again, a 4-carbon molecule. We did not lose carbon in this step. In the next step, another NAD is going to be reduced into NADH. Water will be produced, and this fumarate is going to be changed into something called oxaloacetate. And if you remember, oxaloacetate is the first molecule that acetyl-CoA binds with. Let's go over this process really quickly using this illustration. So first, the acetyl-CoA is going to bind with oxaloacetate. The acetyl part, which is 2 carbons, is going to bind with this 4-carbon, forming this 6-carbon citrate. Citrate is going to be oxidized by NAD, which becomes NADH, and we're also going to lose a carbon. We lose the carbon in the form of CO2. This forms ketoglutarate. Ketoglutarate will be oxidized by NAD, which becomes NADH, and we're also going to lose a carbon dioxide, which means this becomes succinate. Succinate is a 4-carbon molecule. Succinate will be oxidized into fumarate when FAD reduces into FADH, and ATP will also be produced in this step. Fumarate will be changed into oxaloacetate by NAD oxidizing it and becoming NADH. And this oxaloacetate will begin this process again. It's important to remember that the Krebs cycle occurs twice per glucose molecule. And the final products of the Krebs cycle after occurring twice are 4 CO2, 2 ATP, 2 FADH2s, and 6 NADHs. One last thing, it's important to remember that this type of ATP production that we're seeing here is through substrate level phosphorylation.